those traits that we've said about Ruth revealed the kind of mother that Naomi was. And I'll very quickly say why. In chapter 1, why is she encouraging her daughter-in-laws, to stay behind? When they're saying, we'll go with you, Naomi's saying, no, don't go with me. She's thinking about them. You got a future here. You're a Moabite. It's going to be a tough road up there, and I don't want to see you go through that. If ever a woman needed to be loved, it was Naomi. Anybody who has lost a loved one knows that feeling. And Naomi's saying, no, I'm more concerned about you. In other words, Naomi demonstrates a selfless love. Again, it's not about me. I'm not a Gehazi. I'm not looking for what I can get out of it. I'm looking at your future. She releases the girls, even though she could, quote, use them at a time like this. Well, love doesn't use people. Love loves. In the second chapter, it's an easy one to miss. And I was looking at this and praying about it. When Ruth goes to Naomi and says, I want to go out in the field and I want to work because love works and I count on God's grace in the field, Naomi doesn't say anything. It's like, yeah, okay. Now you wonder, what is Naomi thinking? Ruth comes and wants to do something. A good mother, if they're really demonstrating love for their offspring, a good mother lets their children learn. You can't smother them. You can't do it for them. You've got to let them go. I want to go out into the field and learn. A good mother, and Naomi's a good mother, realizes that when she goes out to work, what she's actually working and developing on is responsibility, character, learning lessons, not being taught them, told them, but learning them. Releasing their kid to do what they do. That's a form of love. Telling them everything, making them do things, that's a form of love too, in a certain respect, which we're going to get to. But Naomi, in her love and wisdom, realizes that Ruth has got to build her own reputation. And Boaz says, everybody's seen it. Why have they seen it? Because Naomi released her as a good mother, didn't say anything. Let's see what happens. Do you think she didn't care? She seriously cared. Kind of rolling the dice. Let's see what happens. Remember, she's in a place where at this point she's feeling pretty forsaken by God. She's being called to something else now, to trust God in a way that she's struggling with herself, really. But she's got to release her kid. In this case, she's not 7 or 8 years old. She's a woman. But she's got to release her. She's not going to smother her. She follows it up later in the chapter. You can read about it. When Ruth comes back, she asks her, how did it go? She's following it up. And Ruth tells her what happens out in the field, what happened, and she met Boaz, and he told her to stay close and to keep her eyes on the field and the whole thing. And Naomi agrees and confirms it. Naomi confirms the word. Let me say what I mean by that. She confirms the word. She recognizes that field is Boaz's. He's the authority. What he says, it's his word. He gave you a word. You obey the word of the authority. She's coming into agreement with authority, righteous authority, that says, do this. She comes and confirms it. Now, we may not find ourselves in that situation, but as parents, I guarantee you we will find ourselves in a situation where the Word of God will be stretched, and we will go by what we think, by what we see. Our kids will be wondering, what on earth are you doing? And we stand in a position of confirming the Word of God because He is the authority, and the Word of God is the authority. And we confirm it. It's as simple as that. If the Word of God says stay close, you stay close. You stay close. That is the word. She confirms it. In other words, she lets Ruth go out. She asks her how things went. She hears a word and confirms it. And she's not throwing her out and saying, well, work it out for yourself. She's helping her at this point figure out what you need to retain and what you don't retain. I don't care what that guy said. The word says this. Now, that's not what happens to Ruth. She's under a righteous authority with Boaz. But our kids, when they go out, they're going to hear a lot of crap, and they're going to hear a lot of things that they're going to doubt about the Word and our relationship with Christ. And the position of Naomi in this case is to take one of let them go and learn and follow it up and make sure you keep enforcing the Word if you love the kid, if you're operating in love as a mother's love. It's interesting that not the opposite, but after, and when you start chapter 3, Naomi says to Ruth, she tells her what to do. You see, there's a time when we release our kids, a mother releases their children and kind of holds their breath till they come home. It could be a father as well. Please, guys, don't misunderstand me, but in this case, it's a mother. I'm not saying this is exclusive to a mother, but we are talking about mothers. Release, holds their breath, oh God, and prays, let it be a good day. Please, Lord. And then they come home, how was it? There's that type of thing that's it's crucial. A lot of parents don't do that. A lot of parents will not release their children. You know who you're releasing it to, don't you? To God. We're actually trusting God. We're releasing them to God. I'm not going to be God. I can't be. I can be a father, but I can't be God. And I have to at some point release them. What's funny, because I think they're more spiritual, but a little bit harder for a woman than for a guy to release them to God. Really release them. Naomi demonstrates that, but then when we get to the 3rd chapter, she demonstrates something else as a good mother. She says, now, here's what you need to do. She instructs her daughter. Why? Because she doesn't know what's going on. She's a Moabite in Bethlehem. When we went to England, it wasn't like that. I didn't feel like a Moabite, but I felt like a fish out of water. I didn't know what was going on. The point being that Ruth is in a neighborhood that's a foreign land, and she doesn't know what's going on. That's a really good time for the mother to step in and say, now here's what you need to do. She instructs her. She gives her the right kind of instruction at a time that she needs it. Proverbs 1 verse 8, if you get it, just read it.
Listen, my son, to your father's instruction, and do not forsake your mother's teaching.
Proverbs 6:20.
My son, observe the commandment of your father, and do not forsake the teaching of your mother.
Yeah, again, teaching from the mother. There's stressing the teaching from the mother. There's other proverbs, by the way, that talk about when the children bring shame on the parents, that specifically they refer to the mother. When it's talking about the various names between Ruth and Boaz get married, they have a kid, all the people in town are just so happy for Naomi because they know what she's been through, and now she has a grandson. Verses 13 through 17.
So Boaz took Ruth, and she became his wife. And he went in to her, and the Lord gave her conception, and she bore a son. Then the women said to Naomi,
Blessed be the Lord, who has not left you this day without a redeemer, and may his name be renowned in Israel. He shall be to you a restorer of life, and a nourisher of your old age. For your daughter-in-law who loves you, who is more to you than 7 sons, has given birth to him.
Then Naomi took the child and laid him on her lap, and became his nurse. And the women of the neighborhood gave him a name, saying,
A son has been born to Naomi.
They named him Obed. He was the father of Jesse, the father of David.
She nursed him. She didn't just cuddle him. She cuddled him while she was nursing him, but it's a little bit more than a cuddle. Anyway, Naomi, her name means pleasant. That's what the word Naomi means in Hebrew, pleasant, a delight, which makes her distress so much worse when her situation causes her to say, ain't feeling the delight today, feeling bad. She wants to call herself Mara, but her name actually means pleasant. It means a delight. And God just keeps saying, you are a delight. You'll see. Ruth has a son called Obed, which means to serve. Jesse still exists, not destroyed or lost. And David means loving. What I'm trying to say here is with Naomi, she had thrown the towel in. And as a result, you get this lineage that leads ultimately to David. Names are really important in the Bible. That says to serve This thing ain't over till it's over. It has not been destroyed. And what it's going to produce is David, whose name means loving or beloved. Either way you can look at it. In other words, God's got a plan. All this love that's going on with Ruth, Naomi, it's going to produce the beloved down here, David. When you see Naomi nursing her grandson, she doesn't just have, Ruth. She becomes a grandparent. What she's nursing, so to speak, the generations to follow. What she's sowing into is not just for the moment. She's she's in the long term here. Generations to come, if you would. It's wonderful being a father and a mother. It's wonderful being a grandfather, grandmother. But more than all that, this is the lineage of Jesus. See, while people, it's really funny, because if you when you look in the beginning of Matthew, and there's these 4 different women that are not Jews, and people, there's 4 women that are, you're missing the whole point. It's kind of like, God, if you missed it. That what's being nurtured from the very beginning is love. The lineage is a love line. That's what it is. It's a love line. And how we struggle in our Jewish mindset to think in terms of, is it possible that somebody outside of Judaism can be part of Jesus being born? We'll deal with it, because he already has. And he tried to tell the religious mindset and the Jews for thousands of years, I'm not into this thing that you're into. I'm into something else. I'm going to use the Jewish lineage to produce the Son of God, who is going to touch everybody, Jews, Muslims, whatever. When we look at this love story with Ruth and Naomi, Naomi has been nursing Jesus all along. She just hasn't known it. And I like that. I like that a lot. She didn't know what she was really doing. What are you doing? I don't know. All I can say, I'm just loving on people. And I really believe that Jesus is glorified through that somehow. I just believe it. I may never see it. Messiah is going to be, 1,500 years down the road. Love is unconditional. Love works. Love is faithful and obedient, accepts responsibility, blesses God. And then a mother's love went through with Ruth is selfless. She releases to learn. She instructs when necessary. And the last one, she nurses the generations to come. This is not a 100-yard dash for her. This is a marathon.